What if the reason you care about how you look has nothing to do with beauty? What if every mirror you've ever stood in front of was never about appearance at all, but about survival? Because long before you learned what beauty was, your brain learned something far more important. Being accepted keeps you alive. People often say, looks don't matter, but the world doesn't behave that way. Strangers decide how to treat you before you speak. Opportunities open faster for some faces than others. And rejection hurts deeper when it feels personal, when it feels visual. This documentary is not about beauty. It's not about makeup, fashion, or trends. It's about fear. A psychological journey into why humans care so deeply about appearance, how survival instincts shaped our obsession, and why beneath beauty standards lies a silent fear almost no one admits out loud: the fear of becoming invisible. Here are 4 reasons why people care so much about looks. Before we dive in, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you definitely don't want to miss. Number 1. The survival code. Long before mirrors existed, faces mattered. Before cities were built, before language had structure, before cameras, algorithms, or beauty standards ever told humans what was attractive, the human brain evolved inside danger. Every unfamiliar face carried uncertainty. Every encounter was a silent test. Friend or threat? Safe or dangerous? Healthy or risky? There was no time to think deeply. Hesitation could mean injury, exile, or death. So the brain adapted. It learned to read faces quickly, almost instantly. Clear skin suggested health, and health meant lower risk of disease. Symmetry suggested genetic stability, a sign the body had developed without major threats. Strong posture suggested strength, protection, and the ability to defend. Youth suggested continuity, life extending forward, not ending. These were not opinions, they were survival shortcuts. The brain didn't analyze beauty, it calculated probability. And that ancient system never left. Your brain still carries that software today. When you meet someone new, you don't consciously decide how you feel about them. Your inner system does it first, within milliseconds. Before words, before logic, before fairness. It scans, it predicts, it decides. This is not cruelty. It is biology remembering danger. In early human tribes, rejection wasn't emotional, it was fatal. To be excluded meant exposure to cold nights, hunger without protection, predators without defense. So the brain learned a rule that still operates silently today: belonging equals survival. And appearance became one of the fastest ways to signal that you belonged. Over time, humans didn't just evaluate others. They turned the lens inward. Do I look acceptable? Do I look strong enough? Do I look like I deserve to stay? Comparison was born, and slowly appearance stopped being neutral. It stopped being external. It became personal, because when survival is involved, everything feels personal. Number 2. Shame and social ranking. As societies grew safer, fear didn't disappear, it changed shape. Danger was no longer waiting outside the tribe. It moved inward, into awareness, into self-perception, into the mind. Survival no longer depended on escaping predators. It depended on being accepted. Appearance slowly became a social language. Looking right stopped meaning healthy enough to survive. It began to mean disciplined, controlled, respectable. How you looked started to suggest who you were. Clean meant responsible. Well-dressed meant capable. Attractive meant valuable. And without anyone officially deciding it, appearance began to signal status and moral worth. Those who fit visual norms were treated better, often without explanation. They were trusted faster, listened to longer. Given the benefit of the doubt, those who didn't fit were corrected, mocked, ignored, or quietly pushed to the edges of social spaces. This is where shame entered the story. Shame is one of the most powerful psychological tools humans use. It doesn't need rules or punishment. It works through glances, through pauses in conversation, through who gets included and who doesn't. Children learn this early. They learn what is presentable, which bodies are praised, which ones become jokes, which faces receive attention, which are passed over in silence. Nobody has to explain it. The mind learns by watching. Over time, appearance becomes a ranking system, not written down, not openly discussed, but deeply felt. Better-looking people are trusted faster, listened to more, forgiven easier, and the mind connects the dots. This is how safety looks. This is how acceptance feels. Most people don't chase beauty because they want admiration. They chase it because they want relief. They want to stop feeling like something is wrong with them. This is when mirrors change. They stop reflecting faces. They start reflecting value. How do I look quietly becomes, am I enough? And the deepest fear is not being judged. It's being overlooked. Because being ignored doesn't just hurt. It feels like social death. Number 3, media and the fragile self. Then came a force that magnified everything. Media. What once belonged to small groups, local cultures, and familiar faces suddenly became global. Beauty was no longer shaped by people you knew or places you lived. It was broadcast everywhere, repeated endlessly, and presented as universal truth. Standards became sharper, more extreme, and constantly changing. Just as people adjusted to one ideal, it shifted. Bodies grew thinner, then fuller, then sharper again. Faces became smoother, younger, more symmetrical. The target was always moving, ensuring one thing: no one ever fully arrived. The illusion was powerful. Perfection looked achievable, almost reachable, but never quite attainable. There was always something left to improve, something small to correct, something new to purchase, something missing. And slowly, insecurity became an industry. Flaws were no longer natural differences between human beings. They were renamed as problems. Skin wasn't skin anymore. It was something to fix. Bodies weren't homes. They were projects under constant construction. Faces became unfinished work, always one step away from better. As this continued, something deeper began to change. Identity shifted. People slowly stopped asking, "Who am I?" and began asking, "How am I seen?" Social media intensified this transformation. Validation became visible, countable, public. Approval turned into numbers. Likes became proof of existence. Attention became emotional currency. And the absence of it felt like rejection, even when nothing had been said. Comparison lost all context. People compared their private struggles to someone else's public performance. Their tired mornings to carefully edited highlights. Their quiet lives to someone else's applause. The brain couldn't tell the difference. It didn't understand filters, angles, or algorithms. It only understood one thing: I'm behind. And beneath all of this lived a quiet, unspoken anxiety. One that followed people everywhere. If I don't stand out, will I disappear? Visibility slowly began to feel like worth. And beauty stopped being expression. It became strategy. A way to stay seen in a world that rarely stops to look. Number 4, the fear beneath beauty. Here's the truth few people say out loud. People don't care about looks because they love beauty. They care because they fear rejection. Beauty becomes armor. It protects against judgment before it happens. It softens how the world approaches you. It gives the illusion of control. But armor is heavy. When appearance becomes identity, it creates fragility. Because bodies change, faces age, attention fades, and when beauty fails, the fear rushes in. This is why aging terrifies people, not because of wrinkles, but because of invisibility. This is why rejection hurts more when it feels visual, not because of ego, but because it touches survival wiring. The mind asks, if I'm not chosen, do I still matter? Eventually, everyone reaches a moment where appearance no longer protects them. Illness, aging, loss, or simply being unseen. And in that moment, a deeper question appears. Who am I without being admired? Some people collapse here, others awaken. Because beneath all the conditioning, there is something untouched. Worth that does not depend on visibility. Presence that does not need performance. The people who find this place stop asking the mirror for permission to exist. They stop ranking themselves and others. They stop confusing attention with connection. They realize something simple but powerful. You were never meant to earn existence. Let me conclude. People care about looks because they are still trying to survive in a world that feels uncertain. Because rejection still feels dangerous. Because invisibility still feels like death. Appearance became the language humans use to ask for acceptance, often without realizing it. But beneath beauty standards, beneath fear, beneath mirrors and comparisons, there is something quieter. A worth that was never designed to be seen, only felt. And once you feel it, the mirror loses its power. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.